morning. My name is Michele Rossi, this is Filippo Pagliani, we are Park Associati from Milan. Today we will talk about a project that we just finished a few months ago, which is the headquarters for Nestlè in Assago, Milano. For us, this project is related mainly to the idea of identity, and about creating a building that is able to reflect the company, its value, the way they want to work and the way they want to show the world who they are. I think that modern architecture in the past was able to create very good example of this attitude, like Peter Behrens with IG Factory or the Fagus Factory from Gropius. To end with Frank Lloyd Wright, Johnson Walk's building, but it was a fantastic example of a building that will reflect the company with such force to become itself an element of corporate advertising. As architects, we believe that our job is really to listen, to understand the company needs and translate into a building, something that is a project that speaks for the company. Previously to the Nestlè project, we work on two projects, very different, that have the same topics, same elements. One is the Saleva headquarters that we did with Cino Zucchi. This is a company specializing in clothing and equipment for hiking and climbing. And in this case, the building itself, through its form and its materials, is a metaphor of a mountain. We have created an architecture that was able to metaphorically show the company value, that is more about nature and technology. Another one is a very particular project where it was done for Electrolux, and it's an itinerant restaurant that was laying on the most important building in Europe, such as Milan, Brussels, Stockholm, and London. And again, this was a small building. It was able to bring around Europe the value of this Swedish company. So Nestlé was really about this. It's about following the same way of thinking, try to understand how we can give form to a company and trying to create what they call the new home for the company. The project area is not so far from here. It's a few kilometers from the city center of Milan. And it was developed through a master plan from Erik van Egeraard. And it was mainly done also because it's a good location. It's close to highways, and they have a new tube station just open. And the whole development was created with Erik van Egeraard master plan, but then all the projects, all the buildings were given to different architects, so to create a very mixed place. The master plan is not only offices, it's a mix of function. There is offices, commercial, residential, and a school. And in some way, this kind of area, they always have a problem that can have risk, can run the risk to become some kind of desolated and dispersed area, some places were no places really. So when we start working on this project, we really thought about how to create a sense of community, not only inside of a building, but also outside of a building, how to take the chance of doing this project, keeping in mind that the most important thing in a place like that was also to create a community. As we always do in our project, we listen, we try to understand the client's needs, and then we try to propose what we think is the right answer to the brief. in this case, so human nature is because that place is also about creating this relationship, because it's also close to nature. And so the only item that we thought it was really interesting to highlight was the relationship with nature. The client brief was very clear, but as often is with clients, it was very rigid, very static, very boring. It was a courtyard building like this, more or less. They wanted to have a glazed building on the upper floor and a very close building on the lower floors. They want to have a courtyard building like a campus. And in some way, you know, when we start working with the idea of a campus, we understood that we were about to create two different areas, very separate. In the example that we have on this kind of projects, that we create an outside and inside. The outside, we thought that it was very interesting to create something that it was more like a public area, a more porous area, something that was able to create some kind of dynamism to the building from outside. And at the same time, as I was saying before, there was this previous part of a green area that we wanted to highlight in terms of relationship between the workspace and the inside of a building and the green area outside. So for this area, for outside, we also took under consideration our previous experience with Saleva, where we created an area that it's a real public area, so it's a private owned area, but becomes a very public, open area. So for the Nestlè, we try to create something that it was like that. But of course, when you do a courtyard, a campus building, you always have to deal with an inside of a building. And in Italy, in Milan, we have a long history of this kind of subject, you know, from old buildings to new buildings. This is a building where we restored a few years ago, that is from the Soncini Brothers architects in Milan. And it's a building from the 60s. And we always loved this project because it have this kind of secret garden inside. So something that is asked to be discovered through the visit of the building. But at the same time, we wanted these two areas, the outside and the inside, they usually completely separate. So we wanted to try to find a way to at least visually connect these two areas, the outside from the inside. So I was talking about the brief. The brief was very rigid, and to try to follow the brief, but at the same time create something that it was more interesting, more dynamic, we did a couple of moves, a couple of studies. The first one was to move one of the side of a building to rotate in order not to have everything square. The second one was to raise the building, the building above the ground, in order to create the outside of the building more interesting and the inside too. And also to break the large mass into smaller boxes, smaller blocks. And then we move a little bit the facade. This was to create a kind of different reflection to the windows. Of course, if we have everything aligned, we have the same reflection, but just a small movement of the facade allows us to create a more dynamic and more interesting facade. And the last one was to raise part of the building and connect it with a suspended bridge. And so this is the beginning of a project, and it's what we call suspended boxes.
So, coming to the project, this is the site. So you briefly saw already how it works. Obviously, we had the metro station that for us became something very important because we understood that these 1,600 people each day had arrived in this place and have a direct direction to the building. This is the plans of the building, what we can imagine of these suspended boxes show in plan. And obviously we started to think how to create this idea of a sort of penetration of the people inside the building in a way that could permit to have emotional feelings arriving there each day, and starting to work on the idea that this campus, this place, has to give a sort of continuous life during the day in the best way as possible. So the piazza, this sort of covered piazza, is the only semi-public space of the project. It's a very important place for the building because it's the only one that can permits you to go inside and have a look, and also to start to understand how the section of the building works. So these are the main entrance, and this is the view of the building while you're arriving from the metro station. And approaching it, little by little, you start to discover how it works and how this covered piazza can permit you to see and to feel a sort of luminous space and luminous way of living this space. This is the big skylight that permits us to start making a sort of connection between the exterior and the interior of the secret garden and the secret court. The idea of the campus for us was very important, so we had to feel the building from outside as a campus element, but at the same time we wanted to give emotion while you were inside. So this is the section that, in a certain way, explain very briefly the concept of this building. And this is the internal court that is, for us, was a secret place, but very important for the lives of the building and for the life of the people that each day, for 8 hours a day, stay in this place and have to live all together. So this sense of community and of trying to be as much as horizontal as possible in terms of communication between the people were concentrated in this courtyard that for us obviously is the most important part of the building in terms of function. And this is the canteen. The canteen is the only part that can permit you to reach the courtyard and to start working with this hilly landscape. This is the most surprising thing of this building. The section permits us to have these different slabs, green slabs, that in this moment are a fantastic garden and a very surprising place. And another surprising element is this bridge, a double height bridge. It's 2 floors that can today, in a certain way, permit us to break the sense of this closed courtyard and having this transformation in a real part of flexible and a possibility to live as an office space. So talking about sustainability, for us is a word that obviously is very important, but for us sustainability, and especially in this project, has 2 functions. One is the construction efficiency, that is not only the quality of construction in terms of how you build the building, that obviously is made of good materials and correct, but also in the efficiency of how you use the building, how you work inside the building, and how to manage the feeling and the way to make a good communication between the people. The other one, obviously, is the energy efficiency. That is something that for us is always in mind and takes, for example, this building a LEED certification that was obviously something very important for us and for the client. So all of this goes to this idea of quality, general equality for the workspace that you can see in a certain way in a very dense situation in terms of the plan that is a very dense plan, but that works in a very efficient way with this double corridor, with this core that is the main core of the building, with a lot of the main function of it. But at the same time, this double corridor permits us to have a very quick, let's say, you can transport yourself inside the building, and the flows inside the building are very fluid. So this permits also to have this sense of community, of humanization of the workplace, and having the fact that sometimes we can also have some parts in it where the people can meet. And obviously the canteen is one of the most important places in this building. Talking about materials, as you have seen, the building is made fundamentally by two materials. One is the glass, that for us was very important to achieve this request of the client to have a totally transparent building and to have this the feeling that the exterior part always and the nature can come inside, and from inside you can always look outside in a very fluid and transparent way. And then you have the basement, that is a terracotta basement that we decided to work with this material, trying to make as much as possible the feeling that this basement was part of the ground, and then to arrive to have the sensation that the box, these magic glass boxes were really flying over the building. So we wanted to have some mass in the basement, and these tiles of terracotta that can be also 3 meter the length of 3 meters, are positioned in a way that the only rule is that they are perpendicular in front of this very basic facade. So there is not a logic, but there is the only rigid logic is that in front of the window you have a perpendicular central element. So this is the view of the building today. A building that another important thing is talking about sustainability. We believe that this corresponds to a correct construction in terms also of cost. Is not a very expensive building, but it's absolutely correct. Imagine that this building costs 1,400 euro per square meter. So everything we wanted to achieve was to arrive to have a correct balance between a good quality of materials, of construction, of, let's say, really a sense of humanity in terms of how you want to work in a good place today, in a general quality and consideration of sustainability in terms of construction. Thank you.